They were the givens of his life, along with the thousands of hours of intense unseen labor by others. In this case, some 400 people, a couple of $100,000, and a couple of $100 million in government equipment got the vice president to the ball game in perfect security and comfort. They also made it possible for him to spend the better part of a day, leave his office, board an airplane, travel halfway across the nation, land in another city, and travel overland 30 miles to a ballpark, and never see one person who was not a friend or someone whose sole purpose it was to serve or protect him. This is living in the bubble, and George Bush had long since perfected the art. By this time, midway through his second term, he had almost ceased to note the special circumstances of his being. After almost 6 years as vice president, the bubble was his milieu. He had learned to accept its cost, as he had its perquisites, as his destiny, even his due, owed not to him, as he'd sometimes point out, but to the high office he held. Actually, he was seldom asked about it any more. The public and the press expected it. They seemed to like it, really, for the glamour they imagined therein. The few who asked were old friends who came to visit and saw what had become of his life. They'd inquire in uneasy, near whispers, "Doesn't it drive you nuts?" And he'd shrug it off with a quick joke, which they'd retell as evidence of his grace, his discipline under pressure, his will to serve. But really, they didn't see the half of it. No one who hadn't lived in the bubble could know what it was like. A trip of 1,000 miles, 2,000 or more, across a continent, around the globe, without one word exchanged with a stranger. A year, 2 years, 4 years, without driving a car, without being allowed to drive a car. Instead, the hush of the limousine and the silent smile from the serviceman at the wheel, the stewards in the plane, hovering to know his pleasure, the jacket with his name embroidered as a memento of his visit to the ship or the plant, the campus or the launch pad, the visor, the ball cap, the golf shirt, the golf bag, tennis racket, squash bag, T-shirts, cufflinks, tie tacks, tie clips, memo paper, matchbooks, lighters, ashtrays, swizzle sticks, the coasters, glasses, mugs, china teacups, plastic drink cups, plastic bags, all with his name and seal upon them. The minute-by-minute schedule, instructing him where to stand, whom to greet, the men in suits and earplugs always around talking into their wrist microphones. The men in slightly better suits handing him typed pages telling him where he'd be going and whom he would see, who his friends were among the crowd and what he was supposed to tell those friends, what the press would be asking and what he ought to say in response. The simple, awesome fact that from the moment he opened his door in the morning until he retired for the night, no matter what he chose to do or where he went or what he wanted, he would never be alone.